Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Witty Writers show. It's a beautiful Monday, and I'm all excited because we're going to have Mark Gottlieb on the show today, and I am super excited. He will be joining us in a second. Oh, is he there? Let me just check.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. Looks like we got it working. Can you hear me?
Fantastic.
Okay?
Yes, I can hear you brilliantly. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thank.
Today we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of querying an agent. Now, I know you and I have touched on this a couple of times before. However, our reach for the Witty Writers show is now over 93,000. So we have got so many more brand new writers and authors joining us that are sending me lots of messages saying, I've got this question about querying and I want to know this about querying. So we thought, okay, we'll do a whole show all about querying agents and the do's and don'ts and, what ducks you need to get in a row before you start.
Sound good?
Welcome
Yeah.
everybody. Welcome. Mark, we have already got so many people jumping on and saying hello to you. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to pop them on the screen just so we can say hello to them. Lots and lots of people. We've got Judy who's joined us. She says, hello, Beth. Hello, welcome back, Mark. Kisses to both of you. Please give Jan Cardis a kiss from her favorite client and tell her happy Thanksgiving. Oh, she is so sweet. She also says happy Thanksgiving to Beth, Mark, and families. Oh, she is lovely. We've got Teresas, who's another author who's joined us. She says, "Yay, I'm here. Great to see you guys again. Sound is great." So we've got a thumbs up from Terza. We've also got Josephine says hello. My youngest, I think that's the first time she's ever joined me. Hello, darling. She's in Wisconsin at the moment, so I hope she's having a blast. Although she's probably freezing her bits off at the moment, like you probably are, Mark. I bet
Yeah.
you. Is temperature dropped where you are now?
Oh, it's starting to for sure. Yeah. Not as constant though.
Oh, I know she's having an absolute blast. She really is. Judy says, I can hear both of you. So thank you, darling. Thank you for letting me know. Heather's joined us as well. Hello to you both from Gemma and I. Heather's a new author and she started writing quite prolifically. And plus she's doing the NaNoWriMo as well this month. So that's awesome. James says, read my book. I like it. LOL. James back me up. He's a regular. Autumn has joined us, my partner in crime from the Write Better Author Smarter group. Hello, Autumn, you angel. And there we go. We've also got Beth Albright. She says, I'm here. Hugs to you both. And thank you, Mark, for being a fabulous agent for my new thriller. Oh, I tell you can't get nicer messages in that, can you? It's lovely. We've also got Bill who's joined us. He says, nice, I'm here. We've also got Evelyns. She says, hello, I'm excited to join. Oh, well, thank you everybody for joining us. Now, please, if you haven't done already, please say hello because we love to acknowledge you and say hello to you. And today, if you've just joined us, is all about the do's and don'ts of querying an agent because we keep getting lots and lots of questions. So I think, Mark, we should start right from the beginning. And I know that there are slight differences when you're querying an agent depending on the genre. So if we start with the fiction authors, what would you say is the first thing an author needs to do before they even consider querying an agent like yourself?
Well, the manuscript should be fully written because fiction needs to always be sold on a full manuscript. And then when the manuscript is fully polished and ready to go, the author needs to then set themselves to the task of writing a query letter. And a few elements go into that. For fiction, I think the best things in a query letter are upfront in 1 to 2 sentences what the book is about, like in a snapshot, just a quick hook or elevator pitch. And that, sometimes you see that. What's a good example of that? If you're browsing Netflix or you're browsing Amazon movies, and they give you a quick description of the movie, it's always 1 or 2 lines. It's seldom more than that. Up there with that quick description, I like to see if the writer wants to mention just a couple of their quick credentials, like if they happen to have an MFA or something like that, or if they want to mention the comparative titles to the book, a couple of those, basically 2 or 3 best-selling books published within the last 5 years of the age range genre that they feel are similar to their book. And then I think the letter should launch into just 2 body paragraphs of some of the plot description of the book, the kind of things you'd see on the back cover copy of the book or the Amazon product page. And then the last paragraph, I think, is best left to the author bio, relevant writing experience, writing credentials, then closing out the letter, opening the letter with "Dear so-and-so," closing the letter out with "Thank you, and I hope to hear from you, all the best," and including your contact details and signature line. That is
go on.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a little slight delay, and I think it's probably because of weather, etc. But when you talk about, a polished manuscript, I just want to clarify for our new writers. So by polished, you mean completely finished. It's done. You're happy with it. And 2, it's been edited as professionally as you can. So it is as perfect as possible. Now, I just want to clarify for our new authors, how important is it for that manuscript to be as polished as possible, and what are the repercussions if you ask for a full manuscript and it's not completed? I mean, we only get one first impression.
Right. So I think that definitely, I think the best thing a writer can always do is write the manuscript in full, polish it as much as they can on their own. If they seek outside help, some people use like a team of beta readers or outside editor, before going the literary agency route, to get traditionally published, then it's all good because it helps the manuscript. I wouldn't really recommend, because see, that's the thing that's interesting about the month we're in. It being November, and this being NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. It's very tempting for a lot of people to, they've been in a frenzy to write a whole book in 1 month. They've been challenging themselves, like running a marathon, and then to just throw it off your desk and try and have it go out into the world and take flight on its own is very hard to do. I think after that point, after you write it, go back through the manuscript, many times on your own and with the help of others. Make it as you can. Because too often do I see instances where I request the manuscript and the writer says, "Oh, well, it's not finished yet, or it's not fully written. I need to do more edits." That's not good, because it's just not a use of anyone's time. So it would be best. Yeah. It's as polished as can be.
Yeah. And there are, as you said, there are plenty of, groups out there where you can select beta readers, and ask friends and family to check it out, see what they like and what they don't. Feedback is invaluable, isn't it? When you're literally at the end of your manuscript. Also, quick little tips for our new writers. Listening to your own manuscript can really, really help as well, because as it's being read to you, you might think, oh, okay, I think that comma might be in the wrong place for emphasis, or something just might not flow. But it's only when you hear it that you can really tell whether it's going to read right. So that's always a good option. And of course, you've got facilities like Grammarly, which is a great help. Sometimes that picks up things that we miss, because we sometimes go blind to our own mistakes. And of course, we've got the Hemingway app as well. So there are different facilities, aren't there, for people who don't have, lots of funds for editing and everything else, but there are different techniques you can use to try and pick up mistakes that you've made.
Yeah, and I really mean, when I say polished, I mean, obviously the spelling, the grammar, the syntax, that's all important, right? It's not a deal breaker by any means. But I really mean the editing in terms of like the broad strokes of it, like the big ideas, more so like, the major plot points and like even down maybe into some of the line editing. But that stuff, I think definitely those are great programs. It just helps to have that anyway. I haven't heard of the Hemingway one. What is that program?
It was a new discovery for me. I found it about 2 months ago. Because I'm a prolific reader. I research everything, as you know, and I was going through some writers' websites and support groups and everything, and it popped up. I thought, oh, that's interesting. But it works a similar way to Grammarly, but I think it's more to do with the flow of your story, and so it's less grammar but more about the flow of the sentences. And I haven't
I
had,
don't
because I've moved
that
house.
one.
I've
How
moved house, so I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. I'm gonna have to test it out.
I'm very curious to know how they do that. Yeah.
I will send you the link, Mark, and I'll also post it in the comments as well, so everybody can access it. And for those of you writers who don't know about Grammarly, it is invaluable. It is fantastic. It does pick up a lot of things that we miss, because we do reread and reread and reread our own work, and after a while, our brains automatically correct the mistakes, so we don't see it. Believe it or not, our brains are funny things. So if you haven't got Grammarly, do get it. I used the free version to start off with, and because it was so good, I actually paid for the yearly subscription, and I wouldn't be without it now. And the nice thing is, and I don't know whether you know this, Mark, but if you have a subscription with them, they send you emails like once a month or so to tell you how you're doing, which is
Oh.
quite a it's quite a feel-good feeling when you see you've written more than certain percent, or you've been more accurate than a certain percent, or you've come up with more original words than a certain percent, and you're like, oh, I'm not doing
Well,
too bad.
it's really nice because reading and writing has always been such a solitary thing. And so it makes you feel, I guess, like you're not alone. You have someone there kind of, rooting for you. It's good.
Yeah. And also sometimes you don't realize how much you've written until something like that sends you a message that says you've written this amount of words. And you look at it and think, oh, I've actually done quite good this month.
One I would point out too that I think you mentioned, which is really important. It gives you, I would probably say, it gives you kind of that bird's eye view of your work, because you're right, like you were saying, in writing something and being so close to it for so long, you don't have a lot of peripheral vision. It's like right in front of your face, and so that's why hearing your work, like you said, showing your work to other people, getting that feedback, or even using those programs, like it gives you more perspective.
Yeah, it really, really does. It really does. We have got so many comments that have popped up. I'm going to pop some up so we can acknowledge them. I think we've got some questions as well.
Mhm.
Bill says it's a pleasure to meet you, Mark. And
Thank
we've
you.
also got Robin Washington, who's one of my clients. She's fabulous. She says hello. She's joined us today. And let's have a look. Oh, Judy says, Mark sounds like my literary agent, Jan Cardis from Black Hawk Literary Agency, LOL.
Mhm.
I wouldn't know, Judy. She's awesome. She was awesome. Okay, Ronaldo Williams says, is there good software for preliminary edits? Well, as I said, Ronaldo, Grammarly, I would personally recommend. The Hemingway is a good one. I'm not sure. Do you know of any others, Mark?
Actually, there's some really good writing programs that screenplay writers use that I sometimes find that novelists also use. There's called, I think, Scribner, And
Yeah.
there's another one. I'm forgetting the name, but it's a fascinating program. It highlights, you can highlight the text from each character in a different color or font, and have the book or the manuscript, read back to you, and you can choose various voices, accents that you want it read to you, and I think it's such a powerful tool for hearing your work.
That's amazing. I've heard really good things about Scrivener, because apparently you can do different sections, so you
Fi-
can do different
uh,
chapters or scenes.
Final Script, I think, is the other program.
Okay.
I think that's what it is.
Final Script. Okay. We will find you the links for both, and we will put them in the comments, everybody. So hopefully you'll be able to find out all the information. And as I said, I do know Scrivener's very highly rated. I've heard many people talking about that one. I suppose it depends how in depth you want to go into your editing and how particular you want to be. Some of us are more go with the flow type writers. So we tend to just have to get stuck in and write. Whereas other people, they feel happier and are more confident if they plan it meticulously, either by chapter, scene, or, beginning, middle, end, however you want to do it. So we're all different. That's the main thing. So it's a case of finding what works for you.
I was going to say too, they have, you must have seen these. They look like digital typewriters. They're word processors, but they don't connect to the internet or anything else. And it's so that it zeroes you in on what you're doing, kind of gives you those writing horse blinders, because there's no distraction when all you can do on this device is write.
Yes.
That's
Do you know, it's funny because I have so many authors that say they always get distracted once they're on their laptop or computer. And I keep telling them, turn your notifications off. Because the moment you got your notifications on and you get this ping, somebody's messaged you, ping, somebody's commented, it's just a distraction, isn't it? So I must admit, that's one thing I do. If I'm sitting down and I'm about to write or edit, all my notifications get turned off, because then I know I'm not just going to keep getting distracted by these pings and flashing pop-ups. It does make a difference. It really does. Okay, we got another comment from Rod Kimmel. He says, pleased to be here, even if it's virtual. Well, thank you for joining us, Rod. It's nice to meet you. We've also got Elliot, who's a fantastic historical fiction author as well. We've got Stephanie, who's a women's fiction author. She says, hello, just joining now. Welcome, Stephanie, welcome. Let's have a look. Okay, Judy says, Women's Fiction Writers Association has a great beta readers and critique partners who can read your manuscript prior to submission. Thank you for sharing, Judy. That is very, very good to know. If anybody who's watching, if you've got any fantastic writing groups, even if it's for a specific genre, and you have had great success with that group, please pop it in the comments, making sure that you highlight what genre it's for. And then that way our other viewers and our other members can actually have a look, go straight to it, because personal recommendations are brilliant. They are worth their weight in gold. They really are. Now, Bill has a question. He says, I'm attempting to become a new writer / poet. I wrote 2 poems in regard to the WTC 9/11 attack. How would I go about finding an agent for poetry?
It's really tricky because very few agents really sell any poetry. Poetry, it's hard to even give it away for free to publishers, because a lot of it is done at the academic level, and as a passion, just publishers who love it. So it's very hard to make a living as just a poet. But I think that people have found other ways to kind of trick us to reading poetry, right? Like, obviously you hear a song and it's a poem in a way. But there was a trend recently with an author, Rupi Kaur, who she had a huge Instagram following in the millions, and she decided to do an illustrated poetry book. And right away it upset every poet because they thought this is not poetry. This is just people who want to buy into the Ruby Coir lifestyle. But what it did for the publishing industry was it kind of like turned people on to poetry again. They realized that if you kind of remix poems in a way that it's not just itself, if it's placed with something else, then it's a lot easier to kind of get that in under the radar with publishers. So I sold an illustrated poetry book by this author, Freya Rosen, uh, to a publisher, and they paid really good money for it, which was surprising for poetry. So I think you kind of have to try to reinvent the wheel a little bit with poetry. Very hard to go in there just with the text. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe have some sort of theme. I think that when you have some sort of theme to poetry, that does help, especially if it's specific to a community of some type, because then you sort of get the interest and the recommendation and stuff like that. But there's also quite a few small publishing companies that do collections, poetry anthologies as such. So I think it's basically a case of researching, Bill. It really, really is. And I wanted to say to all our viewers and our writers and authors, there are two main platforms that really, really help when you are looking to query an agent. The first one is Publishers Marketplace, which, as I'm sure Mark will agree, I mean, that is the place where you can find literary agents, publishers. You can discover what genres they actually represent. You can find out what they've recently, what business deals they've recently done on behalf of authors. It's a wealth of knowledge, all there in one place with Publishers Marketplace. Also, you can use Query Tracker, and Query Tracker does a similar thing. So it will literally tell you what agents represent what. It will give you their contact details, so you could do the online or email submissions. Plus, with Query Tracker, you can actually, it has an inbuilt facility, so you can actually highlight the agent that you've contacted, the date that you contacted them, and it also enables you to edit, so you can actually put the agent's response. So it means you can literally keep track of your queries, who you've heard from, who you haven't, who you need to reach. So those are two big options that will really, really help you finding the right person to query. We've also got, let's have a look. Oh, talking about Publishers Marketplace. Two-Headed Roman Goddess says, it's a very cool profile name, by the way. When I'm reading deals on Publishers Marketplace, there have been a lot of comps that use movies instead of book references. Is this a growing trend in querying? Good question.
So for the sake of querying agents and agents eventually, pitching editors at publishing houses, you really need books as comps, because they're trying to figure out where a book might go in a bookstore, how well it might do, how much it offer for your book. So if you say my book is like this movie, they can't really go on Nielsen Bookscan and look up the book sales numbers of the movie and then profit and loss statement and know how much they should offer for your book. Why you are seeing book deals announced online with movie comps is because after the project has sold to a publisher and they are announcing a book deal, a lot of film and TV companies go and they look online at the book deals that are getting announced, and they say, "Ooh, that sounds good." That that movie did really well. If this book is anything like the movie, and we're interested. That's why people are doing it, because at that point, the book's been done. It's facing outward toward a different industry. I mean, that's the only reason why I would do that.
Yeah.
I can't really read other people, but I've done that in the past. But again, when selling it to a publisher, I wasn't comparing it to movies, comparing it to books.
Yeah. So basically, if you can, try and do book comparisons rather than movies, as Mark said, because there's a lot more to it from an agent's point of view than you actually realize. As Mark said, they need to go through all the sales figures, how long it was popular for. There are so many different variables. So best thing to do is try and have a look on Amazon or Goodreads and try and find comparable books that are similar to yours that have done really, really well. Sean has joined us as well. He says pro writing aid is really useful too. Thank you for that. I'm going to make a note of that. There we go. Pro writing, and then we can do the link for that one as well. Have you heard of that one, Mark?
I've heard of that one. I think I've seen it online now and again. I was just screenshotting it so I can send it to you later if you need it.
Oh, you are awesome. Look, this is why Mark is so good at his job, because he's so efficient. And we've also got a fantastic question from Autumn Bardo, my partner in crime. She says, mid-2022, I will query a non-fiction mini lesson book for teachers / homeschoolers using her real name. I created a LinkedIn and TikTok for students, Instagram, IG, and website with my real name. However, my pen name, Autumn, has fiction author credibility, international writers conference presenter, and lots of YouTube content for both traditional and indie published books, etc. Here is the question. Should I or should I not include my pen name information in the short bio section of a query letter to establish? Oh, I think that's it. Yes.
Well, I think
go on.
where the question goes, I think, to boil it down, there's a pen item for some fiction and nonfiction that's being queried. Unless the fiction has like a really massive following, like we're talking in 100,000 or something like that, it won't necessarily really catch the interest of publishers. Fiction is sold off of a book proposal and sample chapters, and it's about the platform. It's just about who's the author telling the story. So that's the pen name is going to really contribute in a big way for the author platform. Then it may not be really worth mentioning. I suppose it can hurt, but what publishers are interested in, again, an author nonfiction, is do they have a social media following or really big newsletter subscriber list or something like that, lots of visits to the website, things like that.
I suppose if you've already got quite a number of novels published and your social media and your sales are constantly on a growth line, I suppose it doesn't do any harm to mention what you've done so far, because it's probably still more than a lot of people, and still probably a lot more than other authors. So it's a case of you think it's probably, you could probably fit that credibility line in your first sort of main couple of paragraphs and see what happens. Who knows? I'm sorry, say that again, Mark. You're breaking up.
Oh, it could. I was saying it's a little windy here, so it's probably doing something to the internet. It could be worth a shot. It's also just hard to say not having the benefit of seeing exactly what's being talked about. But anyway.
Yeah. I understand. Okay. Oh, so Rod is in there. Look at this, Mr. Efficient. Rod Kimmel, thank you very much. He's included the Hemingway link app. Oh, you are awesome. Thank you very much for that. You are brilliant. James says Grammarly really rocks. There we go. We got another fantastic endorsement. Judy says pro writing aid is great. See, this feedback is fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing it. It's absolutely brilliant. James says, I started the same way. This is with regards to Grammarly. He says, got it free, and then he shelled out some bucks, and he never regretted it. And just so everybody knows it, Grammarly isn't very expensive either. It's really good value. I think it was less than $100, and that was for a whole year. And you can attach the Grammarly app for the keypad on your phone, iPad, computers, whatever. It's fantastic. So I even have Grammarly on my phone. So when I'm doing a quick Facebook post, I can literally just Grammarly check it just to make sure it's spot on. Because 9 times out of 10, like you, Mark, I'm doing things on the go. I'm rushing. I've got to quickly do this. I've got to quickly do that. And a quick Grammarly check saves a lot of embarrassment.
So yeah, it makes us better speakers, better writers, in the process. It's like when you read a lot, you inevitably become a better writer, a better speaker. And I can always tell the people who are the best writers are the most eloquent. And I think probably using something like that will go a long way, like maybe rewiring us in the back of our minds. We don't even know it, but it's happening.
It's true. It's true. My grammar, since I started writing and since I started becoming, more prolific in the, social media side of things, because I use Grammarly, I automatically pick things up quicker now. And okay, I need to change that. And it has made me a much better, I must admit. It really, really has. We've also got Michael, who's joined us. He says hello from Budapest. Hello, darling. And we've also got, Stephanie says, I use Hemingway. There we go. Another recommendation. Elliot says, what about the benefit of adding specific questions for beta readers to consider?
Yeah, I think if someone is wondering something about their own work, it's fair to pose that. I mean, most critique groups I've gone to, I think that actually the Iowa Writers Workshop, I found out, is structured in the same way, which makes perfect sense to me. But I remember in my creating writing class, everyone would have read the piece before showing up to the class, whether it was a segment of it or the whole piece, if it was maybe a short story. And then everyone would have prepared some comments to share. They would go around the room and share the comments, and the writer whose piece it was absolutely had to remain silent so that people could feel like they could really say what was on their mind without fear of retribution or anything like that. And so they would go around the room, and then at the end of it, then the writer could respond to each person and be able to explain their work. And I don't know if I ever told this, but I had a friend in that class who he could not help but interrupt each of the little bit of feedback. And one day I said to him, after class, just aside, I said, I think you might have trouble taking constructive feedback. He said, no, I don't.
Complete denial.
So, some people, it's not easy, but I try, with someone like that, you have to say, it's not like a museum where you're always going to have the benefit of that little paragraph next to the painting. Like sometimes the work just needs to be able to speak for itself. So I don't know. I think it's best to collect feedback first to see what people have in terms of questions about your work, and then respond to it. Respond to how people are responding to your work, rather than trying to, seek an explanation or try and make an explanation of your own work. Right? Because again, it's thing with the paragraph next to it. When I'm at a museum, I ignore what that paragraph says. I would always rather just look at the painting and know how I feel about the painting.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, for any writer, no matter, how experienced they are, I think you really have to be open to what other people think and take it on board. And, and if you get told the same thing by numerous people that something's missing or that something needs to be elaborated on within your work, you need to pay attention to that, and be willing to change something to make your book more successful, and to have, to give yourself more opportunity. But I think a lot of writers, I've noticed, as you said, they're not willing to take constructive criticism. And two, they're not willing to change what they've done, even if it's just tweaking it a little bit. But if you want to be successful in this business, you have to be willing to do what it takes, to be successful.
Yeah, I know, I agree with that. And I think also, even with that, it's a two-way street. And so people should always, what sits well with them, definitely take on board. And then as writers, you know what's closest to your heart, you know what's best for your work at the end of the day. And so if you really feel really passionate about something, then keep it the way you meant it to be. If you really feel that way deep in your heart. There was a woman who famously, Hume, who wrote The Bone People. She sent her manuscript to Penguin Books in Australia, Penguin Australia, who published it. And famously, she refused to allow them to edit it. It was already a long book to begin with. And they probably wanted to shorten the book. And she refused, and so they published it as is, and it won the Booker Prize. So,
Wow.
hey, I could be proven wrong sometimes.
Yeah, you just never know. You just never know. Okay, let's have a look, and we've got some more questions. Okay. Evelyn says, I have complete story outlines that I need to flesh out. That's awesome, Evelyn. I would definitely try and get some beta readers to help you, and see what they would like to see fleshed out or more details. That's always good feedback. And Sean's got a question for us. Sean says, is there a better way to find a good comparison titles than reading as many books in my genre as I can? My work in progress is a speculative fiction with a literary bent, and whenever I find a recent title similar in time and style, the subject is vastly different and vice versa. Sean, I feel your pain, because when you come up with a unique concept, it is very hard to try and find comparisons. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, and it's not, I want to just kind of riff on something you said, like unique work and finding comparisons. It's merely about comparing your work to something else. It's more so about holding in high esteem. And I think some good tools for that, oftentimes I use Breeze or Amazon, because certainly Amazon, through their algorithms, they've gotten it to such a good point where it's like you can search a book and they'll say customers bought this book, also bought or also read, or you might also enjoy. You don't have to read the whole book. You can read the textual description. Some people go as far as to actually sample books for free, which I think they let you sample, I forget what it is, the first 10 pages or something like that. And so you can really feel for it that way. I would say if you know of at least just one book that you feel is similar, that's enough to kind of get you started in that process, or at least going, and get the bestsellers list for your given genre, or, if it's science fiction or fantasy, look at what the publishers are publishing in their current catalog. You might find similarities there. But yeah, it's otherwise for some people, can be a daunting process.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're absolutely right about Amazon, because Amazon tends to pick up keywords, not just the ones that, authors input, but also what their readers put in their comments and their reviews as well. So you might find there's actually quite a good selection there, as you said, because Amazon will pick up, specific keywords for characters, places, keywords in the plot. So their algorithms are very, very complicated and actually work in our favor. So that is very, very good to know. Teresas says she's got poetry in 2 of her romance novels. Very good way of sneaking that poetry in there, Teresas. Well done. Let's have a look. We've also got
parents mix the vegetables in with the meat and the potatoes. They disguise the vegetables.
There's peas underneath that steak. Donald says, "Hi, Mark. We met in Santos, a few years back. Could you talk to pitching a personal memoir for the first time author, please?" Good question.
I think there was much easier to sell a personal memoir. Like there were books like there was that book Into the Wild. There was that Cheryl Strayed book simply called Wild. She really, if you boil it down, came out of nowhere. Like she was a woman who, I guess, her marriage went sour. She had a divorce. She went on a journey to find herself, and in the process wrote a series of essays about it, expanded it into a personal memoir. But she didn't really, at that point, she wasn't anybody. She didn't have a huge social media following or anything. No one knew who she was. I think what she did, if memory serves me correct, in like the Huffington Post, she began serializing, these entries from her journey, and it gained a massive following. And from that, she was able to get from that and effectively have a platform to sell to publishers. So I think that's what it is for a lot of authors who are writing personal memoir and they're ready to publish the book. They get to that point and then they realize it's cart before the horse. They need to rework the platform, find ways to really beef that up in the eyes of publishers. Unless if someone already has that, they're ready to go. But it's not enough for it to be an awesome idea or be well written or, being a harrowing journey. And obviously the person's an authority on their subject matter. If they wrote more, no one else knows best about their own story. You need that platform. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, the reason why people in the public eye have so much success, for example, just for an example, you've got the Obamas. Well, they're already massive. They're all in the public eye. They've already got massive following and et cetera, et cetera. So it's easy for them to publish a memoir because they've already got that readership there. They've already got that platform. So there are lots of famous people who are successful writing memoirs because they already have that fame, that popularity. But I would imagine for, average people who aren't normally in the public eye, I would imagine you have to find that specific concept to market your story to an agent, to a publisher, and then to the public. So it's a case of, it's not just about telling your story, it's finding that element in your story that's going to be sellable and marketable, isn't it? And then, as you said, maybe your platform first with that niche market, that concept, finding the people who want to know more, and then, as you said, reaching out then.
Yeah, it could be that special zest. Sometimes, honest to God, I am surprised sometimes when a memoir is published kind of out of left field, and I had never heard of the person writing the memoir, and there are still some ways where that happens. But generally speaking, the more you have in your favor, I think in terms of the platform, you will always be in great shape that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the question, Donald. I appreciate it. Carla's joined us. She says, "Hi, Mark. You actually helped me with a query at the 2017 San Diego Writers Conference. I believe that's the correct year." There we go. You get everywhere. You get everywhere.
I remember going to San Diego and, now I miss the conference because they didn't have a lot of stuff in person anymore, but it was a great event. It was part of the university there, San Diego State University, and they actually run a nice conference. I think I've been on 1 or 2 years. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to go to stuff like that. But the pandemic happened sort of as I was finding my feet, so I haven't really had a chance to do anything. So I'm looking forward to it. My mum has joined us from the UK. Hello, mum. I love you. And Evelyn has got a question for us. She says, how much consideration should be given to copyright issues when so many people are given access to original work?
I think people in the movie industry are annoyed about this stuff, and in the book industry, you know, happens a lot. Ideas aren't really sucked up into a big studio system and stolen. I can't tell you how many times I've gone out to LA and we're resistant sometimes to tell a big studio an idea because anyone could steal the idea at that point. You really need to work with people you know and trust in that industry. But in terms of books, sometimes I hear writers who say to me, "Oh, I went and got my manuscript copyrighted," and I said, "Why did you do that? The publisher's going to do that anyway for you. When they publish the book, they'll register copyright." And secondly, every book, email, or anything you write or create under U.S. copyright, it's structured in such a way that whether it's published or not, it's automatically given protection. You know, like people can't lift entire passages from your book and republish. It goes against copyright law. So you don't need to register copyright to have that kind of protection. Where it becomes trickier, and again, it's hard to copyright or patent an idea, but you know, anyone can take a title of a book and make it their own. Anyone can take a general idea and make, again, what they can't do, they can't lift passages directly out of your book, put it somewhere else. I think on another show we use like Harry Potter as an example. Anyone can call the book Harry Potter. They can even make it about a wizard and a magical hand. And would they catch flack with J.K. Rowling and her lawyers, of course. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't really make a claim against it because unless that person had taken passages from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and put it in their own book, you know, it wouldn't really be copyright infringement in the truest sense. So, long-winded way of saying it's very hard to copyright and protect your own work, but you have these protections afforded to you anyway, and publishers will register copyright for you with the Library of Congress. You'll get a certificate, and it'll be on file with the government.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did with my self-published books as I went down that route. But as you said, you know, whenever you're writing anything, especially nowadays with us using so many different apps and writing programs, everything is time-stamped. So if you know, if you've used Google Documents to write your manuscript, then every entry is date stamped. Everything you've written is date stamped digitally. So we are better protected now than ever before, which is fantastic. I know years and years ago when I started songwriting, I was advised, you know, to put my work in an envelope, seal it, and send it to myself and never open it. But you don't need to do stuff like that anymore. You know,
You're right. You're totally right. Stuff. It's like, what can you do if you wrote something on a notepad and someone took your notepad? Then how do you prove that really happened unless there's some kind of evidence of it, right? But you're right. If things are through your Google account or time stamped, or it's hard for them to break in and get that, then it's a lot safer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bill's got a question. He says, my current poem, A Call for Humanity, was shared with Captain Scott Shields, who is, as you know, took part in the WTC 9/11. So what you're saying is impossible then? You never know, Bill. You absolutely never know.
It's impressive. It's good. I mean, I think probably the way to go with something like that is reach out to some kind of firefighters union, or, you know, they're of like big organizations surrounding firefighters and their causes, and building support and making it more than just, you know, the poetry, like kind of adding other things in. Like, again, we use the Rupi Kaur example. Like, it was a themed poetry club. It was all illustrated, and again, you had a platform. So if you get some kind of organization behind you, then that kind of thing excites publishers. Like, maybe there's some kind of, you know, there's always some kind of bicentennial or some kind of major event that commemorates a, you know, historical event that people can publish into, get the right support, and there's a way to kind of position it for publishers.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Also, I don't know whether this is an option for Bill, but obviously, you know, it's very tied into the firefighters, etc. So maybe reaching out, as you said, to the organization and offering, if they support him, then he could possibly, you know, donate a certain percentage of the profit to, you know, the charity associated with the firefighters. So, you know, that might be an option and actually gain a lot more interest.
Oh yeah, it incentivizes people sometimes to buy the book, because it's like, for instance, with Timberland boots, right? You buy Timberland boots, if you get them delivered to you, like in a kind of longer prorated delivery, they plant a tree like in honor of you or whatever, like, you know, so you're kind of saving the environment in the process. So it's sort of the same thing with the books. I have a client, Teresa Trinder, who wrote it's a children's picture book called There's Rainbow, about kids knowing that on the side of today where it might look rainy and cloudy, we always know that after rain, there's rainbow. So kids experiencing the pandemic could know that there would be a brighter day on the side of tomorrow. So she decided to, proceeds went to, you know, a lot of families affected by COVID, and so people buying the book, they knew they were also helping a good cause. Yeah.
Exactly. So there are ways and means, Bill. There are ways and means. I've got time for one more question, and then we're going to have to finish up, because my gosh, this hour goes quick. It really, really does. Heather's joined us. She says, I have a couple of questions. Is there a certain range of time where people submit from writing and editing after NaNoWriMo where it makes it harder to submit during ? Also, if you write in multiple genres and categories, is there any preferred method for which to query an agent that represents both? And she says, thank you.
Where people start writing in it.
So I'm assuming...
You know, yeah, I see the first question, but yeah, go ahead.
I'm assuming what she's asking is my take on Heather's question is that what you said earlier about after you've done the NaNoWriMo, take your time. Don't rush into doing anything. Make sure your ducks are in a row. Make sure it's finished. Make sure it's polished, and then do your research on who to actually query.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone is Jack Kerouac, right? Coming off some kind of benzodrine or whatever he was taking. Sat and typewrote the entire manuscript on one giant roll of paper in a museum somewhere. Wow. But I wouldn't recommend it. It's probably not good for your health. And who knows how good that manuscript is. It was probably edited after that. But no, take the time. And also, coming off NaNoWriMo, you're kind of right between, I would say, Thanksgiving and Christmas. I mean, I'm working during those times. I'm submitting books during those times. I don't ever stop. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. But I know a lot of other agents who maybe not say they're blasé about it, but they want to enjoy their holidays. I get it. So you might run into someone where you're trying to submit a book up against the holidays. Whereas, again, there are times where during the holidays, sometimes I've never been busier selling books to publishers. I once looked at a colleague of mine. I said, "You've been incredibly busy too. Like, I just did book deals, and it's like a few days from Christmas." And he said, "Yeah, me too." Because people they didn't think to be submitting books at this time. They created the opening for us.
Yeah.
That could be the case, but you also need time after NaNoWriMo. You really do. And the other question was about querying an agent who represents multiple genres or categories.
Yeah, she said
probably you want to look at agents. Yeah.
Sorry, she says, if you write in multiple genres and categories, is there a preferred method for which to query an agent that represents both? So, if she does multiple genres, should she try and query an agent who does all of those genres? Or can authors go with different agents for their different genre books?
I mean, at the end of the day, folks can do whatever they want. I can't stop from doing that. Generally speaking, people usually keep one agent, or if you do work which is drastically different, like author who writes romance but also writes children's books, some understand why they want a different name for both, because those are kind of sometimes two very different things. But if they're querying an agent who does both, I think putting a quick line in the author bio saying, and by the way, I also write, horror fiction or, whatever kinds of books, so they know right away. And then obviously, I think if you're looking to work with an agent who works in multiple genres, like reading their bios on their company website, looking at the books they represent, and then you can work with them because they work across genres. Whereas if you're querying, again, the agent only does women fiction or only does children's books, and you're, let's say you're author of mystery, crime, thrillers, you could be out of luck.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's all tricky. It's all tricky, I have to say. Well, just to summarize for all of our fabulous viewers, whether you're watching now or you watch later on, basically a quick summary. So if you are wanting to query a literary agent, you need to prepare and also do your homework. So make sure that your manuscript is fully finished. Make sure it's done. There's nothing else to do. Make sure it's edited and as perfect as you can possibly get it. Reach out to beta readers, friends and family, get feedback before you query an agent, because they might come up with something that they don't like or something that they would love to see a lot more elaborated that you didn't even think of. So make sure you get that feedback. And then when you go to query an agent like Mark, go to places like Publishers Marketplace and Query Tracker to find out exactly who to query. Do your research, because if you don't research literary agents like Mark, you won't know what genres they represent, what deals they've done in the past, what genres they're passionate about and love to work with. Knowledge is power, and it's very important to do your research and find out all these things. Wouldn't you agree, Mark?
Yeah, I think those are some good online tools. The Publishers Weekly magazine is a publication too. And yeah, most of all, probably visiting the website of the agents, learning about companies, seeing their submission policies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today on this Thanksgiving week. You are absolutely awesome. Truly appreciate you. And of course, you're coming back in December for a Christmas special.
Yes.
with Trident Media chairman Robert Gottlieb, who's also another top literary agent as well. So I'm super excited to have you both on the show. That's going to be absolutely amazing. We've also got another live show next week. So everybody, if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to my Facebook page and my YouTube. And that way you won't miss any of these events. You'll get notification to let you know when we're going live, what we're doing, what shows we're going on, and what guests we have. It's fantastic. Mark, thank you again, darling. I truly appreciate it. And would you mind, whenever you get chance, just have a look through the comments in case we've missed any questions, because we have tried to answer as many as we can, but some of them get slipped through the cracks.
Good. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you, darling. And yes, happy Thanksgiving to you all. And join us next week for the Witty Writers show. So bye for now. Bye, everyone.